everybody, and welcome to another Frost Reads Reddit. And yeah, I know I haven't done one of these in a hot minute. And hopefully you guys don't mind me doing these occasionally again because I'm sort of running out of memes. I figured doing this would allow my stockpile of memes to sort of replenish itself, and it gives me a chance to go check out what I've missed over on r/entitled people. And let's just say I found two really interesting ones right away. But anyways, moving right into it, our first story is called Parents Threw Me Out as a Child and Then Expected Everything from Me When My Grandparents Died. And this one was posted by I'm Just a Neighbor. And this one starts out with a little bit of backstory, so I don't know why, but my post from r/entitled parents was removed. My friend who helped me set up this account repeatedly asked me to post this story and now says it's too good not to place here. So fine, I'll do this one more time. As others may know, I mentioned in my HOA post about how my parents hated me and only loved my sister. This is the story of that. I was born when my mother and father were only 17. It forced both of my parents to drop out of high school and get a GED so they could find work right away. My father especially was not happy about this because he had dreamed of playing football in college, and instead he had to work at a gas station. He's said to my face many times that I ruined his dream. My mom hardly raised me at all, as she had to work too. They had a cranky old lady next door watch me for most of the time. She wasn't so bad, she gave me more attention than my parents did. My father eventually managed to land a better job as a manager due to his experience running the gas station. It was right after that that my mom got pregnant with my sister. I was 6 when she was born, and I wasn't exactly shown much love before that. But once my sister came along, it was made pretty obvious to even my 6-year-old self that I was unwanted. The only ones who seemed to care were my paternal grandparents and somewhat my babysitter. And they were more like my parents because they treated me the way a little kid needs to be loved. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, and as my sister got older, it went from me sharing a bedroom with her to me kicked out of the room entirely. I slept on the couch for 2 years. I barely had anything to my name other than clothes, school supplies, and an old Game Boy. When I was 10, my parents decided that they were gonna move away, but this move did not include me. I ended up actually being fine with this as my grandparents had agreed to take me in. My life was instantly better. I got my own room again, and my grandparents gifted me a brand new N64 in 1996. That Christmas, I got a Game Boy Pocket too. There were a couple of other kids my age in the neighborhood too, and I actually got to hang out with them. We rode bikes, played video games, shot cans with pellet guns, built forts, and got dirty playing in the creek. You know, stuff normal kids would enjoy. I was finally happy. As time went on, I grew up and eventually moved out, but later moved back in to help my grandparents with the house as they were getting kind of old. They were living off their retirement savings too, so some rent money from me went a long way in paying the bills. My grandpa was the kind of person who'd wanted to build a bomb shelter during the Cold War, but never got around to it. He wanted to volunteer for the military in the 60s too, but was turned down due to a medical condition and the fact that his eyesight was not so great. So he focused on saving whatever he thought he needed. He'd told me many times it was better to have something and not need it than to need it and not have it. Our area suffered from numerous power outages in winter due to heavy winds and storms. So having gasoline and propane for heaters and generators was a must. All of these saving habits became my own as time went on because it's better to need this stuff rarely than to not have it at all. Of course, there was the HOA bothering us, but that's its own story entirely. The problem is, about 5 years back, my grandma died suddenly and my grandpa was heartbroken. He also went about a year and a half later. pretty much everything they owned was willed to me. Their savings, their house, their vehicles, their stuff, everything. The house was long paid off and Grandpa knew how to keep up with the maintenance. In fact, after Grandma died, he kind of doubled down on renovating the place. He had the roof redone, the house was repainted by us inside and out, and we fixed a lot of little things. Grandpa's neighbor George even came by to help redo the plumbing. Ironically, the HOA was rather happy with these changes because the house didn't look run down anymore. One morning, I was fixing breakfast and my grandpa never came downstairs. You couldn't keep that man from his bacon, so I went to check on him and he wasn't moving. I called 911 and paramedics came only to tell me that he had passed in his sleep. My parents made Grandpa's funeral a nightmare. They didn't bother to show up for Grandma's since they were too busy, and at Grandpa's funeral they didn't seem to grieve at all. My sister also showed up wearing a brightly colored designer dress, which I wasn't happy about as it was a church clothes only function. I also noticed my parents repeatedly whispering to each other and glaring at me whenever I looked at them. Come to find out at the will reading that my parents knew that they'd been disinherited long ago for their treatment of me, and they thought it extremely unfair that I got everything. They threatened to sue me to contest the will, and I got repeated calls and messages from my father, mother, and sister telling me I needed to do the right thing and give my father what was supposed to be his. I told them all to fluff off in far more unsavory words. My parents ended up taking me to court to challenge the will, but the judge ruled in my favor after seeing the will and hearing us both out, so it wasn't a long drawn-out legal battle. The judge even looked at my parents with absolute disgust after seeing the will and hearing about their mistreatment of me in my childhood. He called my father a terrible parent and said that my grandparents were right to disown him. My father just hung his head in silence, but he made sure to stop me outside the courtroom and tell me I was always the biggest mistake of his life. And if he could go back in time, he'd make sure I never existed. He should have been a football star, and instead he has to wear a name tag for a 9 to 5. I told him that, mistake or not, Grandma and Grandpa could see what kind of nasty person he was. I didn't ask to be born, and the only real love I ever got was from my grandparents, so he was obviously no father of mine anymore. I got a few more threatening and harassing phone calls as well as some letters from my parents, all demanding money among other things. But over time they just stopped because I completely stonewalled them. I never responded to the emails or letters, and I stayed silent during the phone calls. A few times I just left the phone sitting on the counter with them ranting till they realized I wasn't listening. Aside from not getting the house or money, my parents seemed particularly irked they couldn't get a rise out of me. But I was prepared to go to war against them, and they knew it. So in the end, they just sort of left me alone. From what I know from looking at Facebook this past decade, my sister tried to get into modeling, got married, had 2 kids, got divorced, and is currently unhappily working a job she feels is beneath her. My mother currently works retail and is also vocal about her disdain of it. Like my father, she peaked in high school. She was a cheerleader back then and even had her old uniform framed on the wall. My father has pretty much had the same job for 25 years. He must be good at it if he's still doing it. As for me, I'm in my late 30s now and I live pretty much debt-free in a nice neighborhood. I haven't really had a girlfriend since high school, and I've had very little motivation to ever have another relationship. But loneliness gets to everyone, so I might try to find someone soon. Not many are in the financial position I'm in at my age. Single, paid-off house, 2 vehicles, and a decent amount in the bank. I guess I could aim to be a stepfather. That might be more my speed. All I can say is holy fluff. OP's parents absolutely sound like the type of people that should be strung up by their big toes. I mean, seriously. I know OP's dad tries to tell them that they're the mistake, but I think the blame for this one actually falls on Grandma. Granny should have swallowed. But anyways, I hate to do this. I know I said there were going to be 2 stories, but this one was already super long. And since I don't want to make Kit stay awake until sunrise again, I'm gonna have to call it short. Now, I am going to save that other story for another video, so don't worry, you guys will hear it eventually. But that's gonna be it for this one, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you want to let me know what you think, leave a comment down below. I love reading your guys' comments. But anyways, until next time, bye!
Oh yeah, I want to show our patrons some love too because they're awesome. Their contributions help us to afford all the neat stuff we use to record. So thank you. And if you want to become a patron too, you can click the link down in the description. You'd really be helping the channel out, and you'd get a couple nifty goodies too. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, then yay! You're amazing. By the way, subscribe! Please don't make a foxy beg.